Welcome, brave ones. On this channel, we don't just watch horror animation, we peel back each story to expose the rot beneath, share perspectives, and connect through the darkness. Tonight, we enter one of the most unsettling tales yet, the Red Handprints, a fictional nightmare inspired by the whispered scandals and rumors of Hollywood's casting couches. It follows Hannah, a young actress who came to Los Angeles with fragile dreams of performing, only to discover a hidden world where fame leaves marks you can't wash away. Under white light, the truth bleeds red, brands of power, silence, and complicity. As you watch, ask yourself, how much would you sacrifice to be seen? And what stains remain when the spotlight fades? Comment your thoughts below, hit like, share this with fellow night dwellers, and tap super thanks to support this dark journey. Now, let's begin.
I arrived in Los Angeles when I was 22, dragging a scuffed suitcase and a head full of fragile dreams. I wanted to act, not just be famous, not just be seen, but to perform something that mattered. I wanted to be somebody. Everyone said I had the look. Tan skin, wide eyes, and the kind of youthful fragility that casting directors seem to eat alive. At first, I thought that was a compliment. Now I know better. The first time I met him, Piddy was in the gold-tinted corridors of Empire House Studios. The walls were lined with platinum records and golden trophies. Piddy didn't audition me. He just invited me for a chat in his office. He wore sunglasses indoors, the kind of man who never broke eye contact, even through 2 inches of designer lenses. He didn't ask what roles I wanted or what my dreams were. He asked how far I was willing to go. Then he stood up, walked over, and without warning, laid a hand on my shoulder. It slid down my back like grease.
Fame leaves a mark, baby,
he whispered. I froze. Back at my apartment, I stripped down and stared at myself in the bathroom mirror. My skin still tingled where he touched me, and that's when I saw it. A red handprint, bright, raw, and burning across the middle of my back. It wasn't paint. It wasn't a bruise. It didn't hurt, didn't fade, didn't wipe away. I scrubbed myself until my skin peeled, but the mark stayed. I stopped sleeping, stopped auditioning. My inbox was full, but my soul felt hollow. Weeks passed. Then came the white party. I wasn't invited as a guest. I was just a server. He threatened me, said if I didn't comply, he'd release the casting video from that day online. Everyone was dressed in white. Stark, ceremonial white. The kind of white that hides blood, but never sin. Celebrities mingled with producers. Influencers posed beside men who ran studios like kingdoms. That's when I started seeing them. Red handprints. On the backs of dancers. On the thighs of stylists. Around the necks of young interns. All glowing red under the same kind of white light that revealed mine. A woman leaned over the champagne table, and 5 deep red fingers wrapped around her bicep. It was Piddy's wife. And that's when I understood. Only the marked can see the marks. I was not alone. I joined a quiet group online, a closed circle of those who had seen the red handprints, survivors, not just women, men too, a cameraman, a backup vocalist, a personal trainer, all carried marks from the same parties, same rooms, same man. We shared stories, shared proof. We compiled our evidence, glitches in footage, unedited photos, glimpses of handprints in the cold fluorescence of dressing rooms, green rooms, hotel lobbies. We built a case. I told the others, we can do this. We can fight. But then I got the message. A voice memo. From a number I didn't recognize, but the voice was unmistakable. Piddy.
You open your mouth, Hannah,
He said, calm as a scalpel.
and I'll open the vault. You know the one. Room 7, white party, champagne room. There's footage. You were drugged, but baby, the camera doesn't care. The internet won't either.
3 days later, the video dropped. Low res, grainy, dim lighting. But my face was unmistakable. I was dazed, barely able to stand. He was behind me, his hand pressed to my skin. It went viral before I could even scream. The headlines didn't say survivor. They said, actress caught in scandal with hip-hop mogul. Nobody forced her. Another clout chaser? Agents dropped me. My email filled with threats and offers, none of them professional. Studios blacklisted me. People whispered. Some looked at me with pity. Most didn't look at all. My career was over. No one wanted to hire the girl from the clip. No one cared how it got made. No one wanted the truth. I received a warning message.
There are still plenty of other casting videos. Be a good girl and do as you're told.
After that, the stories dried up. Some members of our circle vanished. One girl, the bravest among us, was found in a river. No one asked questions. I went back to being invisible. Months later, I saw a young actress stumble out of a club, the same dazed look I'd once worn. She had a fresh red mark just below her collarbone. I turned away. Back home, I stripped in front of the mirror, and I saw. Under the harsh white light, they emerged. Not one, not 5, but dozens of red handprints, crawling across my skin like a living plague. My shoulders, my thighs, my neck, my ribs. They weren't bruises, they weren't burns. They were brands, punishments, proof of every time I turned away, every time I stayed quiet, every time I let it happen. I dropped to the floor, shaking. I had wanted to be seen. Now I couldn't look at myself. The marks were everywhere, some new, still glowing, others old, deep like wine stains, faded but never gone. Some fingers dug into my flesh like they were trying to pull me underground. I could barely breathe. Then, a new one appeared right before my eyes. It bled into existence, blooming around my throat like a hand trying to strangle me from the inside out. Just the red, always the red. I clawed at my neck, as if I could rip it off, erase it, scrub myself clean of every secret I'd buried under silence. But the handprints didn't just stain my skin. They owned me. They were justice for the voices I didn't protect. They were the rage of every soul I abandoned to save myself. I curled into a ball on the cold bathroom tile, sobbing soundlessly, because the red fingers around my throat were no longer symbolic. They were real, and they were winning. But I still had hands, still had breath, so I wrote. I bled it into pages. I titled it, The Red Handprints. It's not a cry for help. It's a record of rot, a monument to the cowardice that lives behind fame and filters. Maybe someone will read it. Maybe not. Maybe they'll see the marks too. Maybe they'll finally scream before it's too late.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at something pretty intense. It's a single source, fictionalized, but it feels like a powerful record of, Well, systemic abuse in the entertainment world.
Absolutely. It uses this really stark central metaphor to talk about the cost of fame, the machinery of silence. It's quite something.
Yeah, it really is. So we're digging into the story of Hannah, this mogul they call Piddy, and this unforgettable image, the red handprints.
Right. Our goal here really is to unpack how the narrative works. How does the source use this very physical symbol to show someone's journey from, being a victim to becoming complicit?
And that shift, that's the crux of it, isn't it? Going from getting the mark to essentially creating her own marks of guilt later on.
Exactly.
So the question we're exploring is, how does the source argue that silence, that complicity, actually becomes a heavier burden than the initial abuse itself?
That's the thread, yeah. The story starts pretty classically. Hannah shows up in L.A. She's 22, big dreams, and she has the look described as youthful fragility.
Tan skin, white eyes.
Right, the kind casting directors supposedly eat alive, as the source puts it, which right away tells you about her vulnerability in that whole ecosystem.
She's basically walking right into a system that's designed to consume that fragility. And that leads us to the first really pivotal meeting with Piddy.
Yeah.
It's set in his power center, right? Empire House Studios, gold everywhere, platinum records lining the walls.
Yeah, all the proof of his untouchable status.
Yeah.
And Piddy himself, he doesn't even pretend. He's pure entitlement.
Sunglasses indoors.
Right, a way of not engaging equally. And he skips the audition entirely. The very first thing he asks her is how far she was willing to go.
Wow. Just like that. Sets the price immediately.
Pretty much. And then the source moves right to the physical contact. That's framed as the actual transaction.
He puts his hand on her shoulder.
Slides it down her back like grease, the source says, and whispers, "Fame leaves a mark, baby."
Chilling.
And that becomes horrifyingly literal, doesn't it? Back in her apartment, alone. She sees it in the mirror, this bright red handprint burning across her back. But here's the really interesting part the source emphasizes.
What's that?
It wasn't a bruise. It didn't physically hurt. And you couldn't scrub it off. Couldn't wipe it away.
Wait, hang on. It didn't hurt. That's specific. Is the source saying psychological or systemic pain is worse than physical? Or is it just, necessary for the allegory?
I think it's probably both, actually. If it was a bruise, it's temporary, maybe even legal evidence, right? It heals.
Right.
But by saying it doesn't hurt physically and it's permanent, the source makes it something else. A systemic wound, a kind of spiritual stain.
Like a mark of ownership.
Exactly. Visible only to her at first. It's the quiet cost of entry that everyone else in the system, the agents, the directors, they implicitly understand it, even if they don't see her specific mark. It's like an internal brand for a contract she didn't sign but now has to live by.
That's a really powerful way to put it. It shifts everything away from just physical evidence. Okay, so the mark is internal, invisible to others. But where does the story show it's starting to connect to the wider system?
That happens at the white party. The realization shifts there, from her own trauma to seeing the whole rotten system.
And she's there under duress, right?
Yes, Piddy forced her to be there, serving drinks. He threatened to release some compromising casting video if she didn't comply, leveraging that first transaction.
And the setting itself, the white party, described as stark ceremonial white.
The kind of white that hides blood but never sin. That's the line. It's all about projecting purity while hiding the darkness.
Okay, and it's in that environment.
That the mark reveals its true purpose. In that lighting, that starkness, she suddenly sees she's not alone. She notices the red handprints glowing on other people.
Ooh.
Dancers, stylists, young interns, and maybe most importantly, on Piddy's own wife. 5 red fingers wrapped around her bicep. Deep red.
Wow, okay, so that's the mechanism laid bare.
Only the marked can see the marks. That's the key line.
It's like this awful secret club. It means the coercion, the complicity. It's everywhere, not just between Piddy and one victim, but a shared silent reality for everyone trapped in his orbit, or maybe even profiting from it.
Yes. And realizing this shared reality, this terror, it sparks some resistance. They form a small, secret online group. Survivors.
And the source points out it's men and women.
Yeah, that's important. A cameraman, a backup vocalist, a personal trainer, all confirming their marks, came from the same parties, same rooms, same man.
Yeah.
It's not about gender, it's about proximity to his power.
So they decide to fight back. But how? They can't use the handprints themselves as proof because nobody else sees them. It's allegorical.
Exactly, so they try to find objective proof. Real-world evidence.
Like what?
Glitches in footage, Piddy released, maybe unedited photos from photographers at events, quick glimpses of marks maybe caught under harsh lighting, like fluorescent lights in dressing rooms or hotel hallways.
They're trying to bridge the allegorical and the real.
They are. Trying to prove the physical reality of this psychological deal. But they're stuck looking for cracks, tiny flaws in Piddy's perfectly managed image.
And Piddy, controlling that image, how does he react?
Swiftly and devastatingly. The source describes a voice memo he sends. Calm, almost casual, but terrifying. He talks about the vault.
The vault.
Yeah, and he specifically names Room 7, White Party Champagne Room.
Oh, God.
And then the killer line. You were drugged, but baby, the camera doesn't care. The internet won't either.
Chilling. That perfectly sums up how the system weaponizes media, doesn't it? She doesn't even deny it happened.
Nope. He just states flat out that his version of the visual evidence will crush hers. Context means nothing. Scandal is everything.
And the fallout is immediate. 3 days later, this grainy, low-res video drops.
And the world reacts exactly as he predicted. Headlines scream, actress caught in scandal with hip-hop mogul. She's instantly branded a clout chaser. The context, the coercion, the drugging, completely ignored.
So professional ruin follows.
Instantly. Agents drop her like a hot potato. Studios blacklist her. Her email, which used to have auditions, just fills up with threats. Or worse, these non-professional exploitative offers.
It reinforces that her only value now, in the eyes of many, is tied to that victimizing clip.
Exactly. Her identity is rewritten by the scandal.
It just highlights the sheer helplessness. The silence isn't just Piddy's threat anymore. It's the whole industry refusing to touch the girl from the video.
Right. And the impact on that little resistance group, it's absolute.
What happens to them?
It falls apart. The source is brutally clear. After the public shaming, the stories stop. People disappear from the group. And then there's that truly terrifying line.
Which one?
One girl, the bravest among us, was found in a river. No one asked questions.
Jeez. That detail, it tells you everything about the depth of his power. It's backed by this lethal institutional indifference.
Yeah, physical elimination is possible, and the system ensures complete silence. Total erasure.
That indifference. It leads us to the toughest part of the story, I think. The part about complicity. Hannah's final branding.
Months later, after she survived the initial storm, she's out somewhere, and she sees a young actress stumbling out of a club, dazed.
Yay!
And she sees it, a fresh red mark right below the girl's collarbone.
A mark only Hannah can see.
Exactly. And this is the moment, the turning point, the failure that goes beyond her own victimization.
What does she do?
She looks at the girl, sees the mark, and she turns away, chooses self-preservation, doesn't intervene.
Oh, wow. And the consequences are immediate, allegorically speaking.
Immediate and visceral. She gets home, strips down, looks in the mirror. And it's not just her original mark anymore.
What does she see?
Dozens of red handprints crawling all over her skin like living plague.
Yeah.
Shoulders, thighs, neck, ribs, everywhere.
So the meaning of the marks completely changes here.
Completely reverses. They're not just Piddy's mark on her anymore. The source calls them brands. A punishment's proof.
Proof of...
Proof of every time I turned away, every time I stayed quiet, every time she let it happen to someone else. Silence isn't passive anymore. The source argues it's an active choice. And it leaves its own mark on your soul.
So the first mark was inflicted on her, these new marks. She's inflicted them on herself by upholding the system of silence.
That's it, exactly. Some are old, deep stains like wine. Others are new, glowing red, reflecting recent failures to act. She's become her own jailer. This system has fully wormed its way inside her.
That's the core message, isn't it? The weight of complicity ends up being heavier, more corrosive than the original coercion.
It seems to be. And then comes the final horrifying image that cements it. A new mark starts appearing around her throat.
Oh, no.
Bleeding into existence, it says, trying to literally strangle her from the inside out.
Her own silence choking her.
The realization hits her. The handprints didn't just stain my skin, they owned me. They were, in her words, justice for the voices I didn't protect. The suppression is now total, internal. The weight of silence is trying to kill her.
But the narrative doesn't end there, right? There's a final act.
Yes, a defiant one, even in that state. Despite being consumed by these marks, she finds the strength to do one last thing. She writes her story, The Red Handprints.
And she frames it not as a cry for help. She knows it's too late for that.
Right. She calls it a record of rot, a monument to the cowardice that lives behind fame and filters.
Just creating that record when silence and invisibility were the main weapons used against her. That feels like reclaiming some power, doesn't it?
It's the only power left, perhaps. Documenting it, even allegorically, challenges the system's ability to just erase the truth. It makes the rot visible, even if people choose not to look.
So what does this leave us, the listeners, with? The story ends hoping maybe they'll finally scream before it's too late. It forces you, doesn't it, to ask yourself,
If silence isn't neutral, if it's an active, corrosive force that leaves a brand, what is the role of the bystander?
because the story seems to argue that if you see the marks, whether they're literal red handprints in this allegory or NDAs or blacklisting or just turning a blind eye in real life,
If you see them and you refuse to acknowledge them, you're actually helping them spread. You're participating. The challenge of this narrative is realizing that we all occupy these roles sometimes, right? The marked, the marker or the bystander, adding to that weight of complicity.
that's a heavy but maybe necessary thought to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the terrifying power of systemic silence.
Perhaps the most horrifying thing about this story isn't the red handprints. It's what they stand for. The marks never fade because the silence that creates them never ends. For every dreamer who comes to chase the light, there's a shadow waiting to claim them. And the deeper horror, the world keeps watching, keeps consuming, keeps forgetting. What do you think, are monsters born, or are they made by the systems that protect them? Share your thoughts in the comments. If there's another horror animation you'd like me to analyze, let me know. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and tap super thanks to keep this dark journey alive. Until next time, stay in the shadows.